High is not coming back. They are not getting a reboot anytime soon. But what I want to tell you guys is Wicked, the Wicked movies, are the Ever After High revival in a sense that I never saw coming. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? Because Wicked, especially the movies, they have absolutely nothing to do with Ever After High. They're not made by the same company. And what I'm talking about in that Wicked is the Ever After High revival we're never gonna get is it just makes me feel the same way I did when I first cracked open the Ever After High books for the first time, because I'm a big Ever After High fan, but my introduction to Ever After High was actually the very first Ever After High book by Shannon Hale, The Storybook of Legends, because when I was younger, I actually didn't have YouTube. So that was my introduction to Ever After High. And I just have to tell you guys, when I saw Wicked this past winter and adult me watched it, it was like the same experience 10-year-old me had when I read Ever After High for the first time. And I thought I would never feel that way again, but I don't know how to explain it. There's just something in the essence of Wicked, specifically the movie, that is so Ever After High, and I'm gonna explain it. And in today's video, I'm gonna compare the two and basically explain to you why I think if you're an Ever After High fan, you would like Wicked, and why if you're a Wicked fan, I think you would enjoy Ever After High. But I do want to address I'm on vacation if you're wondering about the different backdrop. But before we get into it, I do want to say this video is sponsored by the Doll Crafter Marketplace. The Doll Crafter Marketplace is the one and only online marketplace made by doll collectors for doll collectors. They have customization materials. They're also a resale marketplace. So you can go on there and sell your used dolls. You can also buy used dolls. They often have used Ever After High dolls on there that have been restored. So go check out the Doll Crafter Marketplace. It will be linked below. So why do I think Wicked is the Ever After High revival that we are never going to get? Knock on wood, because I would love to get an Ever After High revival, but Mattel is not going to make an Ever After High revival or reboot anytime soon for one simple reason. That is Descendants. Because if you don't know, Disney sort of originally made Descendants to compete with Ever After High. It has a very similar concept, and I will say Descendants and Ever After High have very different aesthetics, but conceptually they kind of do the same thing. Like Ever After High is sons and daughters of fairy tale characters, and Descendants is sons and daughters of Disney characters, the majority of whom are fairy tale characters. And they're both kind of set in fairy tale worlds, although they're two very different fairy tale worlds, which we'll get into in one second. But basically, from Mattel's perspective, like when they originally made Ever After High, they kind of upset Disney, and because they upset Disney, Mattel actually originally lost the Disney princess rights, the rights to make the Disney princess dolls for a while, and Disney went and gave the rights to make the Disney princess dolls to Hasbro. Also, originally, Hasbro made the first Descendants dolls. So basically, because Disney took away Mattel's right to make the Disney princess dolls, Mattel lost a lot of money and they were really struggling. But Mattel, after killing off Ever After High, got back the Disney princess rights, and also now Mattel has the Descendants rights. So I know now Mattel is making bank on selling the Disney dolls and the Descendants dolls. So Mattel doesn't really want to upset Disney again, number one. Number two, just from a business perspective, now that Mattel is making the Descendants dolls, like I said, Descendants is a similar concept to Ever After High. It doesn't really make sense. Like, why are you gonna release another line that competes with a line you already have? Like, for example, we have Raven Queen and Evie, both daughters of the Evil Queen. Like, why would you be making those two at the same time? Like, if they were in the same universe, like if they were sisters, if they were from the same doll line, sure, that would make sense. But they're like from two completely different universes. I know some people are like, oh my gosh, Ever After High and Descendants should cross over. I don't think they should, because it doesn't really make sense. The universes like have completely different rules. Like Ever After High and Monster High, sure, like they were set up to connect. They're like in the same multiverse, whatever. Descendants and Ever After High, no, like it doesn't really make sense. But anyway, basically Mattel is not going to make a line that competes with the line they already have. Like, they're already doing Descendants. Ever After High kind of does the same thing. Like, they're not going to make Ever After High right now. But now I really want to get into kind of why I think Wicked is sort of a good supplement if you're an Ever After High fan and you're looking for more Ever After High content, but you're sad because Mattel isn't making any new Ever After High content. Additionally, if you're a Wicked fan and you don't really know about Ever After High, you might also really like Ever After High. So it goes both ways. But let's get into why I think they're kind of similar. But before I get into that, I want to address one more thing, and that's the School for Good and Evil. Because so often when I'm looking for something that's similar to Ever After High, people will recommend that. And I did watch the movie. Actually, funnily enough, I created the Ever After High swapped at birth theory. And I remember when that movie came out, people were like, you should watch it. Or like, they would even ask me like, have you read the book? I'm like, no, I've never read the book. But I remember watching the movie and I was like, yeah, this is similar to the swapped at birth theory. And it does give some Ever After High vibes. And I remember being excited for it just because I was like, we are not, like I said, I know that we are not going to get an Ever After High reboot anytime soon. And I was like, you know what? I'll just like low-key pretend The School for Good and Evil is an Ever After High reboot just so I can have something. But it just really didn't give that strong. Like, it didn't give me the same vibe as Ever After High. But you know what gave me the same vibe? Wicked. And like, I'm trying to figure out why, and we're going to talk about why in this video, because the reason Wicked gives me that strong Ever After High vibe, I think has a lot to do with the character dynamics. And yes, like, Wicked's in a magical world. Yes, they're at a school. But like, it's not like the same. Like, it's not like they're in a fairy tale world. They're in Oz, and Oz is like a whole other thing. Like, Oz kind of, I mean, Oz is a fairy tale, but like Ever After High is in this like universe surrounded like where they're like repeating the same fairy tales. Like, Wicked is just like they're in the Wizard of Oz universe. Like, they're two completely different concepts. Like, theoretically, like, the School for Good and Evil is set in the fairy tale world, or even Descendants. Like, Descendants is set in the fairy tale world. Like, the School for Good and Evil and Descendants are both like literally much more similar to Ever After High. So you would think like, oh, if you want like an Ever After High replacement, you'd go look at one of those, right? But like, I wouldn't expect Wicked, because Wicked overall, it's not like a story about the fairy tale world, it's a story about Oz, which is like its own thing, right? But anyway, let's get into it, because I think it has a lot to do with like character dynamics and just things like that. So let's talk about the parallels, because I don't even know if I mentioned this, because like I said, when I watched Wicked for the first time, I was surprised upon how similar it was to Ever After High for me. And I had heard people in the past say like, oh, Glinda is like Apple and Raven is like Alphaba. And I was like, sure, yeah, I could see it. And then I watched the movie and I was like, no, I know exactly what you people mean. So let's talk about why I think these characters are so similar, but not just that, like their character dynamics. So first of all, the first comparison is Glinda and Apple. Glinda and Apple are both like the happy, popular friend slash roommate to their other friend slash roommate, and the other friend slash roommate is like Raven and Alphaba, right? So they're popular, they're both blonde. They're very privileged. So like Apple and Glinda are both very rich, and they're both in a position at their school where like everybody loves them, everybody thinks they can do no wrong, everybody thinks they're perfect, everybody looks up to them, and they also are very selfish and self-absorbed. And I will say there's one difference between Glinda and Apple, and that's that Apple is never really mean. Like at the beginning of Wicked, Glinda is low-key mean to Alphaba, but to be fair, Alphaba is a little sassy back. So they did kind of get into like a little battle between themselves, and that never really happened with Apple and Raven. Like they were always kind of nice to each other. But to be fair, like like Ever After High is kind of for younger kids, so I don't think they wanted to show like a bunch of cat fighting, you know? But also at the same time, we meet Apple and Raven their sophomore year. Like the beginning of Ever After High is the beginning of their sophomore year. They're all 15, they're not 14. And I feel like we don't know what Apple and Raven's first year at Ever After High was like. So maybe they hated each other at first. I don't know. But anyway, Wicked starts off, Glinda and Alphaba hate each other. But what I want to say is the point where Glinda starts being very similar to Apple is the point after the Oz Dust Ball, if you've seen Wicked, where Glinda starts to be nice and starts to be Alphaba's friend. Like that Glinda, as soon as Glinda becomes like Alphaba's friend and sings popular and stuff, like that is sort of where Apple starts off. So like Glinda after Ozdust is like equivalent to Apple. Because again, they're both very nice to their friend, but oftentimes they're not as willing to rebel and they're more wanting to stick to the system, even if they know it's sort of a corrupt system. But again, Glinda and Apple, neither of them are evil. Like neither of them are trying to purposely feed into the corruptness. Like both of them think what they're doing is right and they think they're trying to help their friend, but they're also very privileged and they don't struggle as much. So they don't realize how privileged they are and they are kind of selfish. So let's get into Alphaba and Raven. So like I said, Alphaba and Raven are both like the roommate who gets assigned to be with Glinda or Apple. And it is different how they get assigned. Like in Wicked, neither of them want to be roommates, right? And then in Ever After High, Apple sort of just makes Raven be her roommate. So it is like a different thing. But like I have seen people comment, I saw like a Reddit post where somebody was like, oh my gosh, like I watched Wicked and like this person had the same thought as me, but how they expressed it was different. They just did a Reddit post and they were like, oh my gosh, I watched Wicked and I can't stop thinking about how like like Glinda and Alphaba are literally Apple and Raven, like their dorm room, like the opposite sides of the dorm room, everything like reminds me of them. And I'm like, yeah, like their dorm room set up, even like with the balcony, or like in Ever After High, I don't think it's a balcony. In Ever After High, they have a big window in the center of their room, right? And then in Wicked, they have like kind of like that little balcony thing, like even that. And it's like, oh my gosh, even like Glinda's side of the room is on the left, Apple's side of the room is on the left, Raven's side of the room is on the right, Alpha's side of the room is on the right. Like, it's so similar. And to be fair, like, the Wicked musical came out in the early 2000s, so I low-key think maybe the creators of Ever After High might have actually been inspired by Wicked. So, like, I think Wicked low-key might be in Ever After High's DNA. Like, I can't confirm this, but I mean, people take inspiration from a lot of places. But yeah, no, like, it's crazy. But anyway, let's talk about Alphaba and Raven and how they're similar. So they're both outsiders, they're both ostracized. Now, it's for different reasons. At the beginning of Ever After High, we see that everybody's very scared of Raven and nobody really wants to talk to her. And this is because her mom is the evil queen. Her mom's literally not just the evil queen, but I don't know if I mentioned this. If you haven't seen Ever After High, in Ever After High, they're constantly repeating the same destinies in a loop. So, like, Raven's mom before her was the evil queen. She did the evil queen destiny from Snow White. Her mom before her did it, her mom before her mom before her. So Raven's supposed to be like the next evil queen. But Raven's mom was like the evilest of all the evil queens. So everybody's very scared of Raven. They don't want to like be friends with her. Similarly, Alphaba, everybody doesn't really like her, but it's more so they just think she's weird because of her green skin. They don't know how to interact with her. But the point is, like, both Raven and Alphaba are outsiders. Additionally, both of them are like very, very, very powerful sorceresses. They have very strong magic abilities, and neither of them really know or how or really, they don't really want to deal with this. They're both sort of just like born with this magic, and they're like, I don't really know what to do about it. Additionally, both of them are not afraid to stand up. In both of their stories, when Alphaba and Raven see corruption in the system, they call it out. So in Raven's case, this is not wanting to repeat the destiny cycle. So in Ever After High, they were always told by Headmaster Grimm, who's the headmaster of Ever After High, that they have to repeat the same destinies. And if they don't repeat the same destinies, they're going to go poof, and everybody's going to go poof. Poof in air quotes, aka they're all gonna die if they don't follow their destinies, because they're gonna break the cycle, they're gonna upset some sort of magical balance. I don't know, they're all gonna die if they don't follow their destinies. But Raven's like, I don't really want to be evil. So Raven does some investigating, and she kind of figures out, hey, maybe we won't go poof if I don't sign the Storybook of Legends. So then on Legacy Day, when Raven's supposed to sign the Storybook of Legends, she doesn't, and then she doesn't go poof, and she's like, oh my gosh, Headmaster Grimm, I exposed you. You were wrong, I didn't go poof. Alphaba, her thing is different. So Alphaba like figures out that like the wizard has actually been the one like taking all the magical animals away. So like in Wicked, they have sort of like these sentient animals who can like talk and stuff. But throughout the movie, Alphaba finds out that these animals are being kidnapped. And then when Alphaba actually gets to meet the Wizard of Oz, she asks him about this. And then she figures out, like, he accidentally admits to her, like, oh, I've been taking them. And then at the same time, Alphaba also figures out the wizard is a fraud and that he's just actually using technology. He can't actually do magic. So she wants to like expose him. So both of them want to like expose this, and they're not afraid to stand up to the corruption. And additionally, because like both of them have been ostracized their whole lives, like both of them aren't afraid to stand up, but also neither of them are like natural born leaders. Like Alphaba never wanted to like lead a thing against the wizard. Raven never wanted to lead a rebellion. In Ever After High, this is especially shown because when the student body election comes up, Maddie, who's Raven's best friend, ends up being co-student body president with Apple and sort of representing the rebels versus like the royals, which is like Apple's side of the argument, whatever. But Raven's not co-student body president, which I think shows a lot because she never wanted to be a leader. She just kind of sort of ended up in that position. Like, so did Alphaba. Like, Alphaba didn't choose to have green skin and all these powers, but because she was put in that position, she ended up there, and then she ended up having to do the choice to like rebel. And I think it's interesting because now let's talk about the dynamic between Apple and Raven and Glinda and Alphaba, because in Glinda and Alphaba's case, yeah, like when Alphaba decides to go like defy gravity and leave and go rebel and stuff, Glinda's like, okay, like I support you, but like I'm not gonna go with you, right? Apple and Raven, it's a little bit different because Apple, when Raven decides she's not going to sign, Apple does everything to try to convince Raven to sign the book and to follow her destiny. But that's literally, you have to keep in mind, that's because Apple's been brainwashed by Headmaster Grimm and her mother, who's Snow White. Anyway, Apple's been brainwashed by her authority figures, and she's been told her whole life, you're going to go poof, everything's going to be ruined if we don't follow our destinies. But also, Apple has a good destiny. She's going to end up being a rich princess. She's going to have a happily ever after. She doesn't have to do anything too hard. She gets poisoned for what? Like a week? If you get that reference, you get it. But yeah, Apple doesn't have to do anything too hard, and she is very privileged. But like, it's not like she does try to understand Raven, and she does seem very selfish, but she's not like truly evil, if you get what I'm saying. Like, she doesn't want Raven to like sign the Storybook of Legends, but Apple at the same time, also whenever Headmaster Grimm tries to trick Raven into signing the Storybook Legends, Apple gets mad because Apple says, no, Headmaster Grimm, like Raven has to decide to sign of her own accord. Like, you can't force her, right? So Apple is selfish, but she does still have some good in her heart. Additionally, another thing I want to point out about Apple is that prior to the whole royal versus rebels things, there was like royals and commoners, and they actually used to be segregated at Ever After High. And Apple, when she was first student body president, like by herself, before Maddie was co-student body president with her, she had already desegregated like the common rooms. So Apple basically already stopped the segregation between the royals and the commoners. So what I want to point out here is a similarity between Glinda and Apple, which is that they both kind of want to try to fight for what's right, but they both kind of do it like within the system, like within the rules of the world, and they don't really do anything too crazy or rebellious, but they do still try to stand up for what's right. So that's a similarity between them. So now this gets kind of crazy, because now we're going to talk about the similarities between the Wizard of Oz and Headmaster Grimm. So this is where it gets crazy, because it's very interesting, because both Headmaster Grimm and the Wizard of Oz are sort of humans from the real world who came into some sort of magical world and sort of tried to control it and exploit it for their own purposes. So in the Wizard of Oz's case, he's a human, he's from the real world. When he arrived in Oz, everybody thought he was a wizard, and then he just sort of faked it. And then everybody just said, oh, you're the Oz the Great and Powerful, and they gave him all this stuff, and he's like, oh yeah, I gotta stay in power, and he starts doing all these evil schemes to stay in power, right? Headmaster Grimm, I don't know exactly where he came from, but I think Headmaster Grimm somehow inserted himself into the story so that he could get the characters to follow the same destinies over and over, so that the Brothers Grimm, like their legacy, could stay powerful in the real world. Because the reason, if you don't know, the reason the Ever After High characters repeat the same destiny is supposed to represent in the real world how like stories get told over and over again, and they usually change slightly between generations. So like every character following their destiny is representing that story being retold in the real human world to like a new generation or like a new reader. So I think Headmaster Grimm is like kind of in it for himself, and he wants to control everybody and just wants to keep them following the same destiny so the Brothers Grimm stories can stay powerful in the real world and the Brothers Grimm can keep a legacy. I don't know how he ended up there. I don't know if he's truly human. I don't know if he's some sort of like character that's a copy of the real Brothers Grimm. I don't know. But I do know he's in it for himself, because he lied and he told everybody they would go poof if they didn't follow their destinies, and they didn't go poof, so he lied. Before I wrap it up, I just want to say it is also kind of interesting how, like I said, Wicked is similar to Ever After High, but also like it's funny because Wicked is a retelling of the Wizard of Oz, right? And it's kind of funny because, like I said, the whole point of Ever After High is it's supposed to show how like these destinies are these stories are being told over and over again, right? And it's funny because the Wizard of Oz has been retold so many times. Like, it was told as the original book, it was told as the 1930s movie. There's been many other versions of the Wizard of Oz. Like, I remember when I was little, I watched the Tom and Jerry version, I watched like the Phineas and Ferb version. There's also like the Wicked book, the Wicked musical, the Wicked movie, right? Like, it keeps being retold, but it's funny because it's like Wicked is kind of like a new version where it's like this time the Wicked Witch of the West is the protagonist, right? And that's kind of funny because, again, that's also kind of similar to Ever After High, where it's like Raven's supposed to be the evil queen, but she decides to be good. So there's also that. But yeah, that's basically it. Comment, like, subscribe. It really helps. Check out the Dollcraft Marketplace. It will be linked below. Subscribe, like I said. You can go follow my other social media. They'll also be linked below. But yeah, tell me what you think. Are there any other similarities? I was trying to think of other similarities, and the best I could come up with is, like, I feel like Fiero is like all of the Charming siblings combined. I'm not gonna get too into that. Comment down below maybe your thoughts about that, how you think that, what you think that means. But yeah, bye guys.